The damn Bergs are getting me. If I don't get away soon, I'll be going blood simple like the natives.
Sounds like a good title to a movie.
Yeah, there's certain words to it that sounds great. And that's a quote from the Dashiell Hammett book, Red Harvest, one of his only stories that never got made into a movie. But this is the closest thing we got.
Enough.
Yeah. So let's talk Coen Brothers' first full feature film.
Blood Simple. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our Loa fans, thank you to continue to support the show. Now, I usually do the other pitch, but I want to say, when Emmett Walsh passed away, Rian Johnson said on the set of Knives Out that he was handing out $2 bills, telling everybody, keep it, don't spend it, and you never go broke. Well, I brought it with me on set. There you go. So keep it.
You're a richer man. Oh, wait, I'm a richer man than I was this morning.
And then don't spend it and you never go broke. And that's in tribute to Emmett Walsh. All right, so this is the Coen Brothers' first film. What's going on, as if we didn't know?
So it's pretty blood simple, but let me explain it. When Julian Marty believes his wife is sleeping with one of his bartenders, he hires a private detective to uncover the truth and put an end to it. But the detective has a plan of his own.
Of course, everybody, if you're probably watching, if I've already seen it now, and my favorite story of this is when they made this movie, and this is Coen Brothers, they never really made a movie before. They're usually on post-production, working on editing. But that the person that was in charge of gaffing, was this the first time gaffing, and he never knew what he was doing, actually benefited the movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's a scene where Dan Hedaya and Emmett Walsh are in the buggy, and it's lit bad. But what it is concentrating on Emmett Walsh's teeth. And he's talking, and he looks like a monster, ready to eat. So it's one of those that it's throughout the whole movie. It's these happy mistakes that bad lighting made this movie better. I think if you had professional gaffing, would kind of like steer away from it.
Oh yeah, and when that makes sense when you really look at kind of the genesis of the Coen Brothers as filmmakers, because they're so intrinsically linked to Sam Raimi, who made The Evil Dead, and also got some happy accidents out of his goopy horror fest. In fact, the film's genesis here was they wanted to make a movie, so they filmed a fake trailer using Bruce Campbell in the Dan Hedaya role.
Yeah.
At the behest of Sam Raimi, and they shopped around that trailer until they could raise just enough money to actually make a movie.
Right, yeah. So Joel Coen was an editor's assistant for Edna Paul, and then as the person that Sam Raimi used to edit The Evil Dead, and I think Joel Coen was part of the team that was editing the movie, and then as like, hey, I got a movie idea, Sam, and then use that, and that was the vessel to get us started. Blood Simple. What is it? It's part horror, part neo-noir, and very much 100% pulp. I do like the authentic, that everything kind of, and Roger Ebert's kind of right about his assessment. Everything makes sense for all the motivations for this movie.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do, you can't get away from the actions that you already... there's no apologies not going to work. No, I'm sorry, but also you're never going to get away from it not thinking about it. And that's your past experiences. Obviously, there's this interconnection of Frances McDormand's character and John Ketz of, well, I like you, and that starts the movie.
If you like somebody, sleeping with them does help.
But also the private detective of Visser, who's just repulsive.
Yeah.
And fun repulsive.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest role of Emmett Walsh's career.
Right there.
He never really had that kind of front cover. My DVD of the film has him on the front cover of the movie.
Okay.
So you've never really seen that kind of level.
No, he was like a
supporting
couple lines in Blade Runner. That's it.
Yeah. And even like the end of his career, things like Knives Out. Like I loved seeing him, but a scene.
He was the doctor in Fletch after this. So this is his time to fly, and he understands his motivations. He gets hired to kill the person's wife and her boyfriend, but instead he kills him. Frames the other two people, and he knows he's guaranteed to get the money anyways.
Yeah.
Which is like, well, that makes sense. That's far more work to do. Right?
Yeah. And again, Emmett Walsh is quite frequently played up as usually like the dumb hick kind of character. Like he always gets kind of saddled with that in films. He's the smartest man in the room in this movie.
Yeah. I like even when he says dumb lines to him that he blinks like, that was stupid.
Yeah. He kind of, he's aware of kind of, it's almost like he's the character who stepped into the movie.
Yes.
And like everybody else is just kind of playing by the cards. He's the shaken animal that's in the box that's now got rabies and is going to start biting.
Another aspect I enjoy about it, and is a staple throughout Coen Brothers films, is the protagonist is way out of his element. Obviously, he wants to. I want to do this, but obviously, he's not the hero. But he was the person that we follow. That God, he keeps screwing it up all the time.
Yeah, and I would argue no one is really like
Smart
in their element right now. You know, everyone is overwhelmed by what's going on, and you've got John Getz and Frances McDormand, who again McDormand's first time in a movie.
Yeah.
Good starting point.
Babyface.
But we've got these two in this relationship. I buy that they have this kind of like sordid love affair, but I also buy that John Getz is kind of a moron. And this is before The Fly, where he's also a moron. You know, he's kind of, he plays those characters really well, where you believably think this person is out of their element and they're in trouble.
There's certain shots that obviously got influenced by Sam Raimi that are in the movie. The tracking of, you put a camera on a 2x2 board and you run up to people to get extreme shots. You have these wide sweeping camera angles that they actually extremely use for their next film, Raising Arizona. So you see a lot of Sam Raimi's influence of independent films and how you make it enticing by moving the camera. Also, there's a lot of shots of inanimate objects that fills up the movie where you have scenes of just like the lighter or something, but it's important to observe throughout the film. So it's not just shooting it to shoot it just to fill up space, but also focusing on those dynamics helps kind of move along the story when you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah, and for a film that kind of uses those elements to maybe dull down our senses, kind of make us not focus on things, and then you have this incredibly smart tactic of putting the private detective in shots where the focus is not on him. He's in the background or he moves by somebody.
Right, yeah.
He is a shark in the movie. He's the Jaws shark that is just swimming, and we just don't have the dun 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 dun, but he's there all the time. And I think that's that's the horror of the film for me, is that he's all around. He's Michael Myers,
Even when he gets stabbed, he's like in the hand, which is the classic hallmark of the full movie. He's like, it hurts him, but he's like, all right, how do I get out of this?
Yeah. How do we move on to the next thing? And I think it culminates in one of the best finales, and it's so simple. This sequence at this like giant windowed room that they're all in. It's such a clever, and I'm
not afraid of you, Marty.
Sequences.
And she's not talking about him, the detective, and he thought that's hilarious. He's like, and he knows he's dying. Well, if I see him in the afterlife, well,
yeah.
But it's the point of the whole, but you also get the point of view shot of what he's seeing before he dies. And you look, and they actually took a camera to look up to the sink.
Yeah. I think it's one of the best set pieces that the Coens have ever done. Like, they criticized the movie. They said that one of them said, I don't think it's very good, and one of them says it very clearly shows a lot of early signs.
Right.
They don't think this is a very good movie, and I do think, well, it's not going to show up.
No, the
in
director's
my top
cut
films.
is just pretty much the same duration. They just kind of cleaned up a little things that didn't work very well. There's some extended scenes of just standing and not saying anything that kind of removed.
Yeah, but I appreciate it because the director's cut is actually a rarity in that it's 3 minutes shorter. They actually thought, okay, these things can be trimmed, and that's one thing that director's cuts don't tend to do.
Which is hilarious. They actually cut shorter their films for director's cuts.
Yeah, and I also don't think, have we ever gotten a director's cut other than this film from the Coen brothers? I don't think that's not their thing. Is usually they get it right once, and that's why they argue about the dialogue so much.
But right, and I think it's, what's the whole Dan idea saying, it's funny and all this, and she's going to say it's funny, but then that gets played out of her just throwing it out. I didn't do anything funny. And he says, why'd you say that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I kind of like that. It's funny because I'm actually writing a novel called The Factory, and I watch it and I go, crap, I didn't even think about it, but this movie has heavy influence of what I'm putting in the movie. And it's out of town, but it's not, it's more of a Southwest Minnesota, but it's one of those psychologically, subconsciously, this has a strong impact on me.
Yeah,
watching it.
I didn't realize the impact of, because I watched this for the first time for our Patreon episode where we ranked our favorite Coen brothers movies, which by the way is available. Join now. Yeah. We did that on a Pix episode, and I'd watched this film, and it didn't make my list. But that's the problem with the Coen brothers, is there are very few films that wouldn't at least be in consideration.
I don't think there'd be very many films on their own list on their own movies.
Yeah.
They're very critical of their own movies. Yeah. So right, I do like the gels of it, the colors of it. It's very neon, very pulp. There you don't get anything deep below the surface. This is on the screen is what you get, and the characters are kind of one or two note depth, but that makes it far more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's go along with casting, perfect casting for everybody.
Yeah, really solid casting. You know, casting's so good you want to marry one of them. But it, I can see a lot of the unclean elements at play in the film, but that's where I think that independent movies can still have a really strong impact. And we go back to what I say a lot, which is that every story ever made has been told. And this one is more important for how you tell it, because this is, let's talk about it, the most simplistic kind of revenge tale that you can put in a film.
Yeah.
It's just that it's written and directed in a way that makes you forget that you've seen the story a dozen times.
An independent film that mixes genres and styles like neo-noir and pulp and horror, and it predates Near Dark.
Yeah.
And I'm almost sure Catherine Bigelow saw this movie before she made Near Dark in '87.
Yeah, that light neon touch. And you got to give credit for things like Carter Burwell doing the music. I think this was his first score. Barry Sonnenfeld, who directed Men in Black and The Addams Family, he was a cinematographer. This was his first film.
Yeah.
Coen Brothers, first film directing. Francis McDormand, first film acting in. The fact that it works at all is kind of a big swing.
I know, because it's not effective lighting for the beginning of the movie when the rain, and it's like very annoying, but it works. Yeah, the confinement works, and they have to focus on the characters, and you don't see them very well. So, what do you think of our assessment of Blood Simple?
Yeah. Are we making things too simple? Let us know in the comments if there's more thoughts going on in your head rattling around. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, join that Patreon so you can see that Picks with Kyle and Nick episode where we do give our favorite Coen Brothers films. You might catch me in a robe. So let me know down in the comments section your thoughts about that. And thanks for joining us. You can find all of my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
When you make a pulp kind of horror mixture crime story, the villain has to have a signature outfit. And boy, did we get one with this.
Yeah, I kind of want that.
All right. You can find my show on the St. Paul Filmcast anywhere you find podcasts.